This'll do a little bit early.
Episode 200 of the Grey Cricketer Podcast. Start again, boys. Today we're talking about fake IPL in Gujarat villages. We're talking about Bazball. We're talking about Chanderball. We're talking about any fucking danger ball. Australia losing by an innings and 39 runs. Hey, will Virat Kohli ever play for India again? He will, because he keeps getting selected. Barney Ronay is on the show. Hashtag ASKTGC gets into a weird area of people doing shots in Amsterdam clubs and then following out what sort of celebration to do after that shot. I don't know what that even means. This episode is brought to you by Budgie Smuggler, as they all are, budgiesmuggler.com.au if that's your preference. The new hoodie range, the new tracksuit range, the new swimwear range in the UK or the Oz, wherever you are across the entire lands. My name is Ian Higgins. Sam Perry, head in his hands over there for episode 200, and because Australia lost by an innings and 39 runs. What's going on?
Yeah.
That was a capitulation.
It was. Got a tweet yesterday, you and I were just, copied into a tweet or tagged into a tweet. Boys, Chandamal's just brought up his 200. How are you feeling? And I think that's from a 12-year-old. And I just wanted to say, look, my sons have dropped chicken fajitas all over the floor. The game's barely on a laptop in the corner of the house. Yeah. And that's just a defensive mechanism from me because I was obviously absolutely devastated at age 36 that Australia was capitulating for the 18th time in Asia. It had a retro feel to it. I thought there was a certain safety to it. Before we crack on with that, he goes, you mentioned the 200th episode as well, just from me. Thank you to everyone who's listened for 200 episodes. Does it mean anything? Not really. We could sit here and we could say, we changed the game, 7 million downloads, some dumb shit like that. But really, for most people, I think it's just on in the car. It's a voice. Maybe you're buying some stuff at the shops. The volume's a bit low. Turn it up. I've got bills to pay. It's just a voice and a mate. But we stand on the shoulders of giants at the Grey Cricketer here. People who exposed us through the years while we played to rig stuff, cock tricks, selfishness. And that the show has always been a death threat and a love letter and revenge. And we're really grateful to everyone who tunes in for that. And you're just going to get on with your lives and it doesn't matter at all. It's just a fucking show.
We're standing on the shoulders of giants, as you say, and also of betting companies who have funded this operation from start to finish. and speaking of betting companies, here's a headline that caught my eye this week, Pez. I'm reading from the Times of India, as you know, my Bible. Fake IPL in Gujarat village dupes Russian punters. Oh yeah, now you're licking your chops, aren't you? In your car there on your way to work to the job that you fucking hate. Let me read this article to you. It's not cricket. But a Gujarat village almost pulled off an elaborate con with a fake IPL complete with farm labourers masquerading as players, a Harsha Bogle mimic, and even an official, inverted commas, Telegram channel to take punts for a remote audience of Russian punters addicted to betting on the thrills and spills of T20. The charade playing out in a remote farm at Millipore village of Masana district reached the knockout quarter-final stage before organisers of the Indian Premier Cricket League, inverted commas, were caught out by the cops. The gang of cons who set up IPL matches at a farm in a Gujarat village accepted bets from punters in Russian cities of Dvor, Moscow, some other places. The cricket matches were broadcast live over a YouTube channel labelled IPL for over a fortnight. What made the grand fraud even more audacious was that fake matches started 3 weeks after the real IPL concluded. All it took for the real-life con caper to be executed were 21 farm labourers and unemployed youths from the village who took turns wearing jerseys of the Chennai Super Kings, Mumbai Indians and Gujarat Titans. They even did umpiring, flaunting a few walkie-talkies in front of 5 HD cameras. Crowd noise, sound effects downloaded from the internet, made the ambience appear authentic to the audience sitting in Russia. A commentator, inverted commas, from Meerut, with a talent for mimicking Harsha Bogle, added to the feel of the fake tournament, inducing punters to bet their Roubles on the Telegram channel set up by the gang. The Masana police have so far arrested 4 people and are investigating the Hawala channel that was used to keep this con alive. Chief organiser Shobha Davda, who returned to Malapur after working for 8 months in a Russian pub famous for taking bets, helped execute the con. Then there's some other stuff. Anyway, you sort of get the gist. How inaccessible, Hez, is the game of cricket, and how fucking weird is it to anyone who walks past any ground at any time of a Saturday afternoon or a Sunday afternoon, as is their wont, and they think they're watching some blokes on a farm in jerseys with some umpires carrying walkie-talkies and think, yeah, this could be professional cricket. This is what professional cricket is. Yep, definitely.
Hey,
Definitely.
Like, well, I don't. What's the problem here? You know,
That bloke's having a
what's
punt.
the fraud? It's not too far from a lot of pro cricket, I tell you. You know, through the years, like
Yeah.
you know, the Russians are having a bet. They see something on. I mean, the Aussies, we talk about betting on 2 cockroaches. You know, across the floor, could be fixed too.
Yeah.
Like,
Yeah.
obviously the problem is that it's fixed because
State of origin.
apparently, like as bets would come in, the umpires were apparently then signalling to the bats or the bowlers, like, hey, you got to bowl a wide now, you got to hit a 4 now, this kind of stuff. Now, you know. I don't know if you saw the footage, because a bit of footage has come out, and now I'm starting to ask questions about the Euro Cricket League, because this was a better standard. You know what I mean?
Was it actually? I'm not saying the footage. Is
There's footage.
Is
The
actually
guys
better.
can play. Could pick up a couple of shots down the ground. You know, the
gotta
umpires
tell
have got white
I gotta
coats
tell
on.
you.
Could be lab coats. It's all
If
good.
there was 100,000, rupee or rubles,
Yeah.
and like someone said to you, you have to hit this ball for 6, and
Yeah.
it was like my 8-year-old nephew underarm it to me. I'm not sure if I could execute.
Mate,
I'm not sure if I could execute.
And that's why a lot
That's where he lands
of
it.
the teams that I won't mention that have been kind of connected to fixing cricket through the years have always earned my kind of darker respect, because it's like
Respect,
you can lose and win as you wish, depending on where there's more money, you know. So
Yeah.
I don't really, like. I do love that Russians just going, well, yeah, I can bet on this. Yeah, all good. And like, like it looks like the IPL. I don't know. Like, and they're swapping jerseys and who's washing them and, all that kind of gear.
Do you reckon some of them, when they found out that this was actually not the real IPL, they'd still be like, I just want to bet on it.
I've already bet on the IPL. This is the Indian Premier Cricket League. It's a different comp.
Yeah.
Like
This is the IPCL.
Yeah, they come to the Russians and go, that wasn't a real comp. You're like, I know. I'm just like,
Yeah, I know.
Yeah.
Yeah. They're playing on a farm. I can see a sheep standing mid-wicket.
Apparently, like they had no wide lens of the game to show the fullness of the ground that it was a farm either. It was all just close in shots and stuff. I mean, it's pretty much how commentators commentate nowadays anyway. They don't know whether it's going for 4 or 6, so or if there's a fielder out there. I mean, I'm saying play on, and
true.
I'm also saying let's have a look at the Euro Cricket League, because I reckon there's a couple of guys insane. With respect, is that respect? Is
Where
it
was
possibly
Pavel?
respectful?
Where was Pavel?
Yeah,
What
that's
about
right.
was Pavel Florin involved in this?
Exactly.
Mate, I completely agree with you. Like, how good have you got to be where, like, okay, you need to nick this ball? How do you deliberately nick it? I mean, like, me, I'm trying to middle the thing. I'll scratch off there. Don't worry about that. But if you had to nick, fuck, that's good. It's good going. Pez, as always, support for this show is from our dear patrons, patreon.com/Grey Cricketer. Episode 99 of #AskTGC Fridays is coming out this week. And then the Hall of Fame episode, we've had lovely feedback from all the great questions we've received, over 200 episodes of this here podcast and 99 of #AskTGC Fridays on Patreon. That's coming out in a couple of weeks' time. So if you want to support TGC and get around us and keep support for the show going, patreon.com/Grey Cricketer. Over there in Galle, Pez, absolute scenes. Sri Lanka win the second test by an innings and 39 runs. This is the blokes on comms. One of your former teammates, Pez, Russell Arnold, saying this is one of the all-time great Sri Lankan victories. Hard to disagree. This is a stunning victory for Sri Lanka. Chandimal, highest score ever by a Sri Lankan batter against Australia, gets a double ton. Jayasuriya, 12 for the match, 4th best figures ever for a debutant. 4 blokes go down with COVID the night before the game. 3 test debutants in the game. And they fucking smashed Australia. Smashed them. This is, it's a stunning victory in the context of what's going on politically in the country as well, and the circuits happening in the presidential palace of blokes doing WWF moves on the president's bed, blokes doing backflips in the pool. That's all part of it for me.
Save it. That's also for the budgie ad as well. So yeah.
So let's get that out of the way, okay? Chandimal, he's a gorgeous batsman, isn't he? Very technically correct. He's had a bit of a lane trot, 13 test tons. He's a good-looking bat. Purity, smoking Mitchell Stark at the end. They went from 150 to 200 in lightning speed. I never want this Australian cricket team to ever land on our shores again.
Exactly.
Bring back JL. He never would have let this happen.
Exactly.
Never would this have happened under the old coach.
Look, here goes. There's a lot of people out there listening to the show. Some of them are doing it ironically, and they're nodding, furiously at the wonderful context that you've delivered for Sri Lanka's victory, and the praise that you've given to their players that performed really well in the second Test, Jayasuriya and Chandimal especially. That's all well and good, mate. But okay. Stunning victory. While their country's in turmoil, food shortages, fuel shortages, energy shortages. It's a victory amid revolution in the country. Okay, all well and good. There's a couple of
weren't fucking shorter runs, were they?
There's a couple of correct takes here, realistically. One is where are the effigies for Australia? Two, where's Justin Langer? And three, and I haven't discussed this with you. I've actually kept something to myself for once in my life. But look. The third correct take for this game and this series is fucking Penguins. and to sum that up,
any fucking danger, KD.
Easy because. You're leading this charge whether you like it or not, because I was, as is my wont, before I record this here podcast, from time to time I prepare, okay? And I go through a few different websites. There's a couple of websites that cover the cricket quite well and copiously, and one of them is Fox Sports. All right, there I said it. Some good reporters at Fox Sports, and I just scrolled past the headline. One of the many, sort of raging headlines following Australia's loss, and overnight. And one of the headlines is any fucking danger, inverted commas. Umpire shocker denies Aussies 3 wickets as burnt reviews sting. Fucking is obviously F and then 3 asterisks. ING. And I was like, I only know one guy that said any fucking danger in the last couple of days. So I click on the Fox Sports article. Christy Doran, friend of ours, friend of the show, had beers with him in the past. I think he played at the Bears as well, so all connected and stuff. And I thought this would be good. And it was a faithfully written article about mistakes that DHARMASENA had made and whatever. And contained within it is an embedded tweet from Ian Higgins. And now, strangely, it doesn't actually have the original tweet. There's just underneath. There's just the laugh emojis from you, and there's some other shit you said. But the original tweet is you saying any fucking danger, Kumar. So that sentiment has been adjudged by Fox Sports to be really the zeitgeist, the clickable zeitgeist of Australia. Now, I don't know if you take that as a compliment or not, but I think the real analysis out of this game, it's not victory mid-revolution from Sri Lanka. It's not Australia has its systemic lack of technique to spin exposed once again. It's that the Penguins fucked us, and we need JL back, Penguins. And we need it's fucking Penguins. If DHARMASENA just hears that little nick, then the whole game's changed. The whole thing turns on it. All of a sudden we'll be able to play this 10-year first-class player that's debuting. All of a sudden, we'll be able to knock Chandimal and everyone else over. And I think you nailed it, mate. This is the result of just getting fucked by the Penguins. One Penguin in particular, that's DHARMASENA.
Yeah. Oh, Goff at the other end had a cracking game.
Oh, a cracking game. It's a rig.
Yeah. Oh, how's this? How the digits on that?
Is that what you say for umpires when an umpire gives you out? Fucking digits on it, though. It's a thick digit.
I played and missed. I played and missed, but I wouldn't mind seeing that finger again. What? Pez, you know me, mate. I've always had my finger on the pulse, and my Twitter is just full of sensible, well thought out, non-sarcastic tweets at all. Like when I said that Chandimal, it was a shame that Chandimal got 200 because he's a cheat because he hit it and he didn't walk. And there's a litany of replies.
There's Times of India article now.
There's a lot of replies about the 2008 Border Gavaskar Trophy Series for some reason, 14 years ago.
Yeah.
All normal and good stuff, mate. Yeah, mate. Well, I said this on the Daily last night. available on YouTube and Patreon, of course. But like I said, that umpires have bad games. Like it's fine, whatever. It's just I just found it funny with Kumar Dharmasena yesterday. Now we're just talking about it. That it wasn't just like he made a couple of bad calls, because he did. But like in those circumstances, it's not dissimilar to being a wicketkeeper. Like it's really hard. The ball's turning, all this shit, whatever. And then it's just that his head was so gone, because he'd obviously gone to bed the night before, seeing he's missed one there, and now this guy's put on 180 runs. Since he missed that decision. And then like he started to like review bump balls for like full tosses hit into the ground. He wanted to fucking talk to Goff at square leg. There was a play and miss. He tried to like do a square up. No one really appealed. He's like, yep, definitely, that's definitely out. His head was gone. So I found that funny. But like umpires have bad games. It's no issue. But yeah, he fucking cost Australia the series, and he should come out and publicly apologise, I thought. Fucking penguin.
Yeah, it was like, it's, you know, we've seen that game before.
Yeah.
And it was, like I said, there's a certain safety to seeing it. Team bats big against us. We fail to bat big. Then it just goes in fast forward. We get knocked over. It's all quite comical. No one can play deliveries anymore. And systemic like failure to deal with spin bowling in Asia is exposed once again. Partly because we don't invest in spin bowling ourselves, and therefore it compounds. We can't play spin. Blah blah blah. The cycle continues. But probably the funniest bit for me was the continued shots from the broadcast of an old bloke rimming an inflatable kangaroo. I don't know like a beautiful director's shot who understood the metaphor straight away. Now, you seem to be an Australian fan, a senior citizen or something close to that, rimming an inflatable kangaroo. So I'm not sure what that means. That could be the old players and them sharpening their knives ahead of India. But I don't know how that really works. Anyway, I'm kind of thinking about this on the fly. But really, it was really a thorough, comprehensive defeat. Sri Lanka played excellently. Nathan Remington, and Sri Lanka were great. Australia were exposed, and Pat Cummins has said that. We actually learn more in defeat than victory. We're a better chance of winning in India as a result of losing this game. And it's just like, Oh, definitely, absolutely. Yeah, that makes sense.
Mate, I really did feel going to this game that Australia needed to have a loss to sort of learn more about future series.
So really, we meant
we had to have.
Yeah, that was
sort of my takeaway from this. Yeah, Pez, I was saying on the daily last night, in the heat of the loss, I was just sort of feeling my feelings, as I like to do on this show. Yeah. And I was thinking, like in the context of the game, like one decision is enormous to the value of the game, because Chandimal nicks off when he's 20 or 30, and he adds another 180 after that event, and the first innings leads like 190. And so it's like, okay, so if you just completely, just add those two numbers together or subtract them or whatever, they sort of equate to maybe Sri Lanka having to chase 170 or 180 or like the game changes, right? But then I was like, Australia won the toss. They were 5 for 300. They lost 5 for 45 on the morning of day 2. Both guys have got hundreds. No one else gets above 30. Carey misses a number of chances behind the sticks. Australia's use of the review system was really poor. They were unlucky in a couple of other instances where like there was a few umpires calls and all that stuff. Like that just happens sometimes, right? So that's just part of the game. So, but Australia were poor for 3 days in a row. And then, of course, once it gets into day 4, when Australia then has bowled 180 something overs, and they're fucking exhausted, right? Of course they are. And then a fresh bowling attack comes out, new pill, they're up and about. And then that's how the game changes. And it looks like Australia's batting on a different wicket. But they were outskilled. They in numerous instances throughout the game, they managed those situations very poorly. This was a really bad performance by Australia after a very good day 1. Very good day 1. But bats 3 and 4 hit hundreds. Your number 4 hits 145 red ink. Australia is winning the series 2-0 at that point. That's what we were saying on our dailies after day 1. Better team, better skills, and then just complete capitulation. It's just made another example of England being the best team in the world because they won 2-0 over there. So it really makes you think, doesn't it? This is actually a good result for England.
Oh, it's a great result for 16-year-olds with access to YouTube accounts.
And Chris Silverwood.
Spoons.
Same thing, really.
Yeah. Yeah, for spoons. Yeah, mate. 2 for 200. Yeah, there's all sorts of numbers you can throw out there or whatever. I mean, just looking at the game, it was really... There was nowhere to hide for them, though. They did get themselves into good positions. I saw Mark Waugh on Twitter suggesting they were complacent when they threw those wickets away, those final 5 wickets, and if they get those runs and it's a different game, it's different match pressure for younger guys, etc. Yeah, maybe that's right. But there's nowhere to hide. Sri Lanka scored those runs. Sri Lanka put on runs at the end of their innings. Australia didn't. Sri Lanka's spinners were able to get fizz and drama from the wicket. Australia's spinners weren't. I just think that was just the reality of the skills that both teams brought to this wicket, which was a quintessential Asian wicket. It wasn't one of those crapshoot ones where it just rags everywhere and you might get the better of things or, stay ahead of the avalanche before a ball actually gets you. Like, I even feel like when Australia's batting, even though they made 360, still pretty good score anywhere around the world, like, they still batted in a manner that was like, I better keep going and reverse sweeping and and staying on top of the spinners because one's going to get me. And even Marnus scoring 100 and Smith scoring 100, I still didn't feel like they were playing with the command of people who'd made 100. Though it still meant they were really good innings because you can make 100 runs. But when you look at the Sri Lankan batters who were in, they were in control. They were in control of that wicket. They were in command of their game. They understood how to play in those situations. I think Australia just has a fundamental technical deficiency on these kinds of wickets when it comes to both playing and it comes to extracting as spinners. And I noticed Michael Clarke overnight has said, international cricket, you've got to find a way to make runs all around the world. You go somewhere like South Africa, extra pace, bounce seam, go to Sri Lanka or India, it's going to turn from ball one. We've got some work to do. And the systemic question you've got to ask yourself is, when the fuck are we going to do that work before India? It doesn't happen anymore. Where's the time to do that?
I think Cam Rolton has been pretty dry season over in Adelaide, so it could spin a fair bit. Now, Pez, you're talking there about technical deficiencies, and I want to talk about guys who I don't think have had a very good tour for Australia.
Good. Are you going to do player ratings?
No, I'm not going to do player ratings. Travis Head 3. I think that Travis Head's a very, very interesting one because I think he was obviously player of the series in the Ashes, and he was spectacular, and he has been earmarked for a long time. He's actually a potential test captain one day. But there's an issue, isn't there? Because he looks like he's going to get out all the time, especially in Asia, against good quality spin. And he's been playing for his spot for a little while, and he had a sensational summer in Australia. But when he's playing spin in Asia, it looks like you're not in the top 6 best batters that Australia could provide in this situation. And that's an issue because there's longevity with Head as well. Sometimes you have to stick with a guy in all circumstances to keep him in the team to be playing high level red ball cricket because he probably is in Australia's best 6 batters to be in England next year, right? But I reckon Ashton might have a bit of fun with him in on his YouTube channel. I mean, sort of a bit of Q&A stuff and some skits maybe. Over in India. So it's like, well, what's the point? That's by the by. You can't pick a bloke because he's going to have a bit of fun on YouTube with the opposition spinner. He's taken 460 test wickets. You can't pick a guy just because of that. Some people are saying out there, Michael Clarke included, they're saying, you can still pick him. So, I just find Travis Head an interesting one because they want him in the team. They like him. He did well. He keeps clawing his way. His numbers are pretty good in test cricket. But it's a bit, what's the point? So do you back him saying if he's good enough, he'll find a way? Maybe that's the answer. But at the same time, I reckon a guy like a G Maxwell might be better, except Glenn Maxwell doesn't play any red ball cricket and it's just a feeling. But it's something. And you can't pick Travis. You can't pick your number 6 batter because he took 4 for 10 and, because Glenn Maxwell probably also could have done that. He's a better bowler. So it's a dilemma, I feel like. It's a dilemma.
I think that the idea of an Australian number 5 batter or just a top order or middle order Australian batter who's ostensibly got really good numbers struggling in Asia is not a new thing. Yeah, and I think a lot of our great players,
Ponting at that.
That's right, struggled over there. Where the conversation changes is that Australia have moved to a horses for courses or flexible scenario with their teams in a way that previous teams didn't. You know, like incumbency isn't as sacred a thing for this team when it comes to bowlers. And I know it's been mentioned in the press here as well. I think even Cummins mentioned it. Like, the moment you're willing to sit down Josh Hazlewood, who, I mean, a comparison with Travis Head is a bit silly, but he's far more world-class or world-class performed than Travis Head. When you're willing to sit him down in the name of getting the right attack for that surface, why doesn't that approach apply to batters as well? And there may be an answer to that. You know, like it's an interesting cricket question, I think, and we know that like someone like Brendan McCullum or whatever, there's a thing happening in cricket where a couple of like sacred cows or like accepted wisdom is starting to be challenged on certain things. You know, it's been happening for a little while, but it's happening in Test cricket now. We've always suspected that batters have kind of run the game a little bit. Why is incumbency in a batting lineup more treasured than in a bowling lineup? Like, why are bowlers able to be swapped in and out, but batters aren't? You know, there may be an answer to that. You don't fuck with form or whatever. You know, maybe batters are just more brittle, or think one thing goes wrong, it's unfair, you got to stick with people. There may be answers, but I think Australia's asking those questions now as well. You know, well, if you're going to be really flexible and be kind of quite progressive in who you put forward as a bowling lineup, I mean, apparently Agar was going to play if he was fit instead of Swepson. Right. Then why can't you do that with batters? Like, why must Travis Head be invested in Asia where there is no record of success? Maybe there's not a big enough data set. Not to be confused with Saurav Ganguly, obviously.
Playing a game of tennis.
Data set. That's right. Yeah, that's his set, 6 love.
Yeah.
Yeah, like why does he have to be invested in when, you know, when left-handers tend to struggle over there, when, yes, he averages 49 at home, but very little away from home and on these wickets, you know, and maybe he doesn't start in India, or maybe he scores a couple of hundreds at home and we go, it looks good and it feels good and he's the bin leader and he's in. Like, you know, that it's a really big question. I feel bad for focusing on Travis Head specifically when it comes to this. He just probably had the worst return, but that's going to be a big question for Australia going to India in February next year, because they don't really have the opportunity to work on their game that much. There's fucking white ball deluxe everywhere. There's all conditions in Australia to help them work on it. So it really is a case of like, who has the best setup, you know, who has the best weaponry that we can pluck from the shelf, put into Indian conditions and give themselves a chance. I would be in favour of trying something, because there was a bit of a sitting duck feel to it, to be fair.
Yeah, so, yeah. Yeah, and I think that man's name to replace him, R.M. Williams. Another guy who I thought, it's another interesting one is Swepson, who's now played 5 test matches. He played all 3 in Pakistan, didn't he? And he's bowled a lot of overs. And it looks benign, I suppose. Now, in Pakistan, it was difficult because those were some fucking flat decks. And these pitches, he bowled very nicely in the first test match. Took 5 wickets for the game, I'm pretty sure, top of my head. He didn't bowl a bad spell, I don't think, here in Sri Lanka. But it just looked a little bit easier to play. Now, this is also an issue because, like, you get told time and time again from guys who have played at the top level as a spinner. Warren used to say this all the time. You just got to give him time. You know, like... look, Nathan Lyon probably had question marks about him until about his 75th test match. And then you sort of appreciate his quality in relation to other young spinners, especially when they come to Australia. And you look at even Jack Leach, who probably just needs more and more game time, and he gets a 10 for against, you know, albeit, you know, New Zealand. Unnecessary to kick them then. But, you know, just like spinners need time to grow into the game, because really it's only Ashwin who's just even Jadeja, I reckon it's just been Ashwin in the last decade who's just come in and be like, you can play just about everywhere. And now Ashwin doesn't even play everywhere. It's difficult, the investment that they've had, but I just felt like watching this game, there was all this talk before the game about left arm spin, and you can see why. I mean, you're just in the game all the time with left arm spin on those turning decks. They pitch it on the stumps, some will straighten, some will spin. You're going to beat them inside of the bat, outside of the edge of the bat. There's just multiple ways to get him out. Swepson, it's just more difficult to sustain pressure. And he's bowling like, he's either waiting for a mistake from the batsman, which doesn't really happen that much in Test cricket, even compared to Shield cricket where his record's fantastic. he's going to have to bowl some fucking absolute jaffers to get wickets. And then, you know, like he was unlucky in Pakistan, wasn't he? A little bit with drop catches. I was actually in the first innings, he dropped Karun Ratner for full toss just before lunch on day 2, I think that was. Which also might have, was part of Australia's problem. Didn't take those little chances. But hey, I don't think Swepson's had a great tour, which is harsh because I think he's played fine. But it's just I just see value elsewhere in other players, and that's harsh because I want the guy who didn't play is now the best player of all time.
Yeah, look, I think that's right, mate. Before the tour or before the first test, I thought that Swepson deserved a game because fuck, he's just been in the wings for so long, and I think I'm partial to a leg spinner and the volatility of that experience as well. But you are right, and I think we saw that like borne out. I think leg spin is probably just a bit slow off the wicket on those decks. And I think left arm spin was probably the way to go. But with John Holland, maybe even Matt Kuhneman, you know, friend of the show, Matt Kuhneman as well, may have been a better shout. Judging from the fact, you know, Lyon failed to really make an impression, and then, you know, like moments later at the end of that innings, their spinners were like. It all points to me that like our spinners probably just didn't know how to exploit that deck the way that theirs did, and then our bats didn't know how to bat on that deck the way theirs did. That's just what happens when you play away from home against teams that know how to play. So, I don't know, mate. Did you have a? Is it worth going over Steve Smith's review? Any review shit with that? You know, like I think I just noticed I just want to be contrarian about it. Like there's a lot of people who are now like sort of sticking their knife into Smith about his reaction to wanting a review when he was absolutely fucking dead salmon trout, and then he had his little fucking sidekick there that he was trying to bully into making him review, and Marnus was going with it, and I think this is only a conversation in the context of Smith having previously been captain and now being like, it wasn't a captain, was it? You know, but it's a criminally minded, you know, gluttonous run scoring robot savant, and that is just something that comes with that mindset. And if you just let him be like that and you have a bit of maturity around it, then it's okay. Like it's not great. It's not great to watch, you know. And I'll keep calling him it and objectifying him, but it is petulant, and it is a little bit immature. But that goes hand in hand with run scoring at a fucking savant level. And I don't know. I don't think it's a big deal because he's not really a leader anymore. So, you know, they just need guys. You just need a non-striker. And I'll just say on the non-striker thing as well, sorry. A lot of people are like, well, Marnus should just be able to say to him, like, sorry, mate, you know, that's plum. But, like, the non-striker doesn't always stand in line with the umpire as well. You know, if you're looking at a fucking umpire's call or whatever, it's not as easy as a non-striker just being able to go, like, yeah, that's fucking salmon, mate. That's dead. So, I don't know. I find the emotion of trying to get a review right when you're a bat really funny. You know, it's just funny, and you're never going to take the emotion out of it. They're going to try. Just show me a batter who thinks they're out, and I'll show you a loser. You know, all of your fucking will is invested in runs. That's why it's just really funny, and that's why Australians will continue to fuck this up. Yeah, and Koala is an angel investor. Yeah.
One thing that was impressive, future Test captain Cam Green, after Marnus was basically hit on the full sweeping, and Marnus walked down, Cam Green was like,
oh. He fucked him off.
I wouldn't have thought so, mate. That
was leadership material for me.
Yeah, that's right, yeah. And how big is he? Okay. Well, should we talk about the England-India T20 series?
Yeah.
Pez Dog. So India won that series 2-1. India won the first 2 games and England took out the third game. So England in the series were without Bairstow, Stokes, Adil Rashid and Mark Wood. They'll all come back in before the World Cup. In fact, I think, Stokes and Bairstow are definitely back because the ODI series, they're playing 3 ODIs that starts tonight. But But yeah, so the first T20, India won that by 50 runs. They got 198 for 8. Then England were bowled out for 150. Hardik Pandya hit 51 off 33 and 4 for 33 in that game. So you can guess who player of the match was in that game. The second T20, India won by 49 runs. They hit 170 for 8. England bowled out for 121. Interesting about this game, Richard Gleeson, who played in the first game as well. This was his second game. He took 3 for 15, his first 3 international polls. He picked up Rohit Sharma, Virat Kohli, and Rishabh Pant. He's also he's a school teacher for some gaff in Preston. Had to ask for time off work to play these games. They said, well, that's going to come out of your pay. Of course. He plays for Lancashire. His contract runs out at the end of the Vitality Blast. Gleeson, he's 34 years old. This is his first crack at international cricket. It's a fucking pretty cool story. I think he only started debuting pro cricket at 27 or something. I think I'm right in saying that. Anyway, 3-15, stunning. I mean, fucking good for him. So they lost that game by 49 runs. And then another thing in that game, Pez, which is worth of note, that game at Edgbaston was monitored by, and I'm quoting, undercover football crowd-style spotters after Warwickshire unveiled a series of new measures to combat the instances of racist abuse that marred the 5th test last week. You would have seen, even Ben Stokes tweeted about this, that there was reports of racist abuse in the crowd there during the test match at Edgbaston. Warwickshire confirmed that undercover football crowd-style spotters would be deployed throughout Edgbaston to listen out for abusive behaviour and report it for immediate action, and added that there would be an increased police presence at games to handle such instances swiftly and enable more chances of successful prosecution. I mean, obviously, first and foremost, if you go into the cricket and if you're going anywhere in your life, actually, you know, racist abuse stuff, that's not just bin stuff, it's fucking, you're an absolute coat. But yeah, it's interesting that that's been moved so quickly because obviously there's been reports of that happening in grounds across Australia for a long time, and I don't think I've ever seen this style of policing, like undercover football crowd style spotters. So people are just like being placed in the crowd. Will they be sitting in seats? I guess anyone yells shit out, and it's like, fucking see you later. Yeah. I think you go to jail for that now. It's like jail time now.
Good.
Anyway, the third T20, England won that by 17 runs. England hit 215 for 7. Milan hit 77 off 39. Then India fell 17 runs short, 198 for 9. Suryakumar Yadav hit 117 off 55. Now, that's getting into interesting areas because the main conversation about this game, there was obviously some England perspective with it. Matthew Mott's first series as the captain of, the coach of England for the white ball setup. Josh Buttler, first time taking over Owen Morgan. There's some narratives there, but the main conversations around this is Virat Kohli and his lack of runs, which you might have seen over the last little while. So he played games 2 and 3. He didn't play the first game. He faced 9 balls in the series. He hit 1 and 11. It's been nearly 3 years without a ton. It's 77 international innings. It's close at 130 all innings, no hundreds. Kapil Dev has said, if Kohli isn't performing, you can't keep the youngsters out. Rohit Sharma said, in relation to some of the experts are saying that, Kohli shouldn't play. And Rohit Sharma said, I don't know who these experts are. He's going to play. We've seen some Instagram commentary from Usman Khawaja, who said, yeah, no, you shouldn't pick him. He only averages 50 in white ball cricket at about 140. So, yeah, don't pick him. Cheers. That'd be good if you could not pick him. He's, of course, going to play. But I think this is the first time I've seen more of a groundswell of questions about Virat Kohli's place in the side, especially when there's guys like Sky, who's hit 117 off 55 balls. I mean, there's some talent there, and it's been a long time since Virat Kohli's hit 100. He's done some other stuff, let's call that out, but it hasn't been 100. So, I mean, how seriously are we taking this, mate? Because he's going to play. And of course he's going to play. He's one of the fucking best bats ever. But I think this is the first time where it's like, there's a bit of pressure on him now. What are your thoughts?
I think it was like, look, didn't watch it really closely, but have caught up with it, and it seems to have been a really well received series win for India in the T20 stuff. Obviously, they didn't progress as far as they'd have liked in the T20 World Cup last year, and they have a fucking unbelievable side. and they're playing England at home, who can go pretty hard, really, and they seem to unveil a new batting philosophy, which is just as they say in grade cricket, bouging it pretty much at all costs and times from ball one. And like, it seemed to me that or it seems, that it was reported that Kohli kind of bought into that as well, just trying to go from the off, and he lasted 9 balls doing it, a couple of good boundaries. They appreciated that he bought into that, because I think it was reported in Cricinfo that, like, it's not really, not reported, but suggested in Cricinfo, it's not really how he typically builds his T20 innings. And so the question of Kohli and his position in the side, I'm sure it will all happen in a kind of gradual way. Like, if you think of it really specifically in terms of T20 cricket, there's got to be a question over his place in the side, because the game is just it just lives and dies off so many small moments, and if guys can't bring anything over the course of a long period of time, then and he's got some age, and just the place of T20 cricket in internationals is still a little bit beneath like Test cricket and stuff. It doesn't seem as dramatic to think, he's in for some, he's not for others, or whatever. But as we said with Watto many months ago, nobody's had a bigger line of credit extended to them. Nobody has more liquidity in the bank or credit, whichever one you want to go with, financially speaking. Probably better to be liquid at the moment in terms of the financial markets, but he's got liquidity in terms of runs, and he's still being extended credit, and I don't, he's got 207 million Instagram followers as well, sets him on people, that's liquidity. And I noted that, but I did note that, a couple of people are getting a bit more bullish in questioning Kohli's position in the side. So Kapil Dev did it. So Venkatesh Prasad, Venki, another friend of the show, he said there was a time when you're out of form, you'd be dropped irrespective of reputation. Saurav, Sehwag, Yuvraj, Zahir, Baji, all been dropped when not in form. They've all went back to domestic cricket, scored runs, and staged a comeback. The yardsticks seem to have changed drastically now, where there is rest for being out of form. This is no way for progress. There's so much talent in the country and cannot play on reputation. One of India's greatest match winners, Anil Kumble, sat out on so many occasions, need actions for the larger good. My only issue with what Venki said, which is otherwise just correct, in sport, no player is ever bigger than the team, right? No one is ever bigger than the team in any successful team. But none of those players he mentioned, though they're big, are as big as Kohli. He's still bigger than those guys. And I just wonder more broadly, whether there's a kind of Messi Ronaldo thing going on with Kohli and Smith. Are we just actually watching the game move away from them a little bit? Smith's on the outer with the T20 side; he's still in it, but the game is just starting to move on, and we all have to adjust to the idea that they may not be the big dogs anymore. They may still have a few tunes in them, a few symphonies, as you've seen with Smith, etc. But they're a bit fewer and far between, and teams are always looking to invest, especially with India, where there's just you can just feel such a groundswell of energy in the country about the sheer number of players with serious talent that are just desperate for a shot. So I expect Kohli to score hundreds in these ODI series.
Yeah. Oh my God. Think of the celebrations when he goes to triple figures as well. Holy shit. Would a guy would have been more nervous when he next reaches the 90s? Will a country be more fucking nervous when the guy's on 93 and fucking Reece Topley's running into bowl or some shit? Yeah. Anyway, so there's 3 ODIs are coming up. It's an interesting conversation, and we're obviously removed from it because he's not a childhood hero. We're just an observer of a guy, one of the greats of the game. But it's the questions in his the question of him being in the side anymore is not ridiculous. It's not ridiculous anymore. I think it might have been a year ago, but now it's it's still going. It's still bumbling along. You got to show us something. And when guys come in, and he's not the best player anymore, I think that's the case. He's not the best player in the IPL anymore. He's not the best player in the Indian team anymore. But I think he's still in the top 6 best bats that they can put out.
Got to say though, we always talk about the power rankings of great players when they're fading, and some players have looked like absolute dog shit when the eyes have gone. I still maintain that his child mustn't be sleeping very well, because Kohli, there's no evidence that anything's gone there. It's just it
No.
just gets out. But like
It just gets out.
But some of the shots still look great. Doesn't look like he's late or anything, or the feet are mixed up, or
No, exactly.
It still looks really deliberate. It looks precise. It looks decisive, and I expect it to score another 100.
Yeah, expect it to score another 100. All right. Well, let's talk to it now. One of the best friends of the show, to tell us what's happening over there in the UK and the celebrations, the scenes it must have been, not just after levelling the series 2-2, that was cute, but, celebrating Australia's loss over there in Sri Lanka when they also had a very cute 1-1 series draw. It's Barney Ronay. Here he is right now.
Pleasure to be joined by Barney Ronay. First time this English summer, I believe. We had to go once, but the Wimbledon Wi-Fi was no good and Kyrgios was doing some shit. But here we go, Barney. England started the summer, the men's cricket team that is, appointing 3 blokes who'd never done their job. Their new job, that's Rob Key, who said strap in. Brendan McCullum had sockless sneakers. Stokes was bombing sixes for Durham. And then after like 18 months of losing, England have now dusted everyone in revolutionary fashion. How are you and the nation processing this?
Yeah, it is difficult. I'm struggling to deal with feelings of unaccustomed lightness and optimism and things that kind of spike the guns of the last 2 decades of moaning relentlessly about structural flaws and change. We're going to have to deal with this in some way. We're going to have to process winning and optimism and people saying it's okay, it's fine, you don't have centuries of psychodrama to carry with you. I saw today that, I haven't read it yet, I saw the headline on my colleague Jonathan Liu's column, which seems to be saying that actually baseball is a symptom of massive structural post-colonial decay, which I'm really here for and feel immediately reassured by. And I just hope he's managed to get some really good lines about how it's actually terrible and shows that we are bad and that the world is a terrible place. But I mean, English cricket must be very, very annoying for other people. I mean, I know English sport and English people and England generally are annoying, but English cricket it's such a kind of weepy drama queen, and it's really annoying in this country as well because it spends the whole time talking about how it's dying to such an extent that that's become the drama and it fills the summer. And talking about English cricket dying is this incredibly vibrant, like sucking the life out of everything else kind of industry. It's like Morrissey. English cricket is Morrissey. It's all about how depressed we are. And have you seen our platinum selling album? And now we're doing it again in another way. We're kind of recycling those themes about how we're dying and how we have to talk about how we're dying constantly. And just to carry on talking about that, while you try and make me talk about something else, we've got this leadership, Conservative Party leadership thing going on at the moment for a new prime minister, and these people have all come out of the woodwork, like people who look just generally like startling, like people who look like they still keep slaves are saying, "I want to be the leader of your country because I'm going to change everything and I'm nice." And there was there was a leadership video, like a pitch, vote for me, by someone called Penny Mordaunt, who's just a kind of bog standard MP, frightening looking person. They remind me of Mrs. Thatcher was once asked to quote a favourite line of poetry. She quoted Philip Larkin. Just out of nowhere, immediately the line that came to her head was, all that day, your mind lay open like a drawer of knives. That just came into her head instantly as her favourite line of poetry. It's actually a line about a poem about a child murderer. That just came into her head, not about daffodils or the sun or something like that. And that's what these people slightly remind me of. But in Penny Mordaunt's video, there's a lot of flags and the law courts and sort of everything's going to be okay. This is England. And in the middle of it, there's a shot of Johnny Bairstow. Her team have taken Johnny Bairstow raising his bat, and he's just scored his 4th 100 in 3 weeks. And this is the Britain I will bring to you, Johnny Bairstow scoring a baseball 100. And it's made me feel incredibly angry. It's like, hands off, no, go away. Where were you when he was being bowled through the gate 6 times in 10 days for naught, when he was incredibly angry, proving people wrong who didn't need to be proved wrong? And suddenly you don't get to have Johnny. But that's where we are. Cricket has spread itself across everything again, and we have to process it.
I want to ask you about the bizarro nature of the current team as opposed to the correct team of Joe Root of, proper cricket where they lost heaps of games. I'm talking about the Nighthawk of Stuart Broad. I'm talking about Jimmy Anderson being on his podcast, Taylor Linders, talking about Stokes said, do you want to go in next and hit the winning runs because you've never done that before? All this talk about going at 7s or 9s and over. I'm talking about Ben Stokes saying, I wish they got 450. And it's not just these things have occurred. It's a very public campaign that we want you to know that these things are happening. What? This isn't England.
Yeah, it's difficult, isn't it? And obviously some big part of me, I have to be honest, wants it to fail because it makes everything seem ridiculous, like centuries of worrying about things and worrying about doing things the proper way and protocols that we've agonized over. Like, but the difference between batting 4 and 5 is everything, and balancing the attack and worrying about stuff like that. And should you have a night watchman? Is that some sort of admission of fate? You know, the Steve Waugh idea. They're just throwing everything away, and it seems to work. And that's incredibly worrying because what were we all doing? You know, it's all falling apart, and the things that you've kind of clung to for so long as vital issues. And suddenly Jack Leach is taking 10 wickets in England after I've thought endlessly about the tiny little things that are wrong with the way he's delivering the ball and his release and why that doesn't work. And generations of why spin bowling has been badly captained in England. It doesn't seem to matter because you can just say some stuff and have some videos and talk about things and sit on a balcony looking kind of relaxed, and it falls away. So, but I'm not sure how real it is. It's really hard to know how real it is. And we do have this thing in England where the minute things go slightly right, it's as though we've solved everything, as though the best kind of Englishness is the best of everything. And there's a real tendency to kind of massively exaggerate what's happening, like the over-veneration of winning a World Cup, the idea that Owen Morgan changed everything. You know, that we kind of do go very over. I want to see it tested and tested properly, because I think the India test was, there are a lot of things went England's way. India weren't ready, they weren't prepared. Mohammad Shami bowled 1 million deliveries that go past the outside edge, and you kind of go, oh, well, he's never going to get a wicket anyway, it's fine. I want to see it properly tested, because you're right, it seems too easy, and I'm disturbed.
Look, what do you think about the term Bazball, Barney? I'm sorry. I'm interested in the fact that McCullum has recently come out and said it's a silly term, and he seems to look on it and the media who concocted it with a sort of disdain that a first grader would reserve for a fifth grader or a wheelie bin cricketer. And he also decides to only speak to Australian SEN radio, I think, where he's contracted, and I think that's upsetting for the UK media as well. So it must be confusing for cricket press to giddily come up with this term that seems to describe what's going on, only for the coach himself to completely alpha it.
Yeah, I mean, he has to say that. If he had said, oh, I'm so grateful, thank you for inventing, that would have been non-Bazball. So to say that Bazball doesn't exist is Bazball. Like, that's entirely consistent. He hasn't disproved anything. He's just, he can't possibly accept that term or accept that someone else could coin it. And he is, of course, right as well. He hasn't actually done anything. He's just, he's somehow unlocked this other dimension, another level, simply by sitting there. Like, there's not been any coaching. He's not been any public pronouncements. He's not come up with anything. And it was kind of a fun term that Andrew Miller sort of came up with it doesn't literally work. Things in cricket aren't called ball, are they? It's not ball. It's more of a sort of football term. Also, it doesn't involve doing much with the ball. What's Bazball is bowling like 82-mile-an-hour seamers who jag it around a little bit and are accurate and don't get injured. So it's not really a ball issue. It's it's a vision issue. And for him to just dismiss it almost without even dismissing it is great Bazball. So thanks. He's absolutely renewed the term and given it a massively fresh lease of life by just destroying us all in one half thought about kind of remark. So we thank our overlord for that.
Do you have a favorite bit though yet, Barney? Because I mean, we're just talking before about, do you trust it? And there's obviously like, wow, well, what happens when they go to Ahmedabad? Then it's a completely different sport. But yeah, that's all well and good. But like, you just won 4 remarkable tests in a row. The white ball program is excellent. It has been for a long time. So like, this is a great time to be a fan of England cricket. Like, it just is. But like, so you must have can you disregard the do we trust it yet and just embrace the whatever this thing is? And do you have a favorite bit yet?
When I look at it, all I can see is like last day run chases. I mean, it's the same stuff happening, just more intensely and in a way that works. I think that the Joe Root's batting has been the thing of the summer. It's not really Johnny Besser, because that's been kind of slightly frantic and wild, and like could have gone the other way on another day. And it's definitely not been Ben Stokes' batting, which has been horrible. And I'm a bit, there's kind of three grades to it, aren't there? There's the hysterical Ben Stokes. There's the kind of Johnny just about getting it right. I have to say, Root's batting has been an absolute dream. Like his cover driving, which he hasn't often done in the past. It's like run it down to third man. There's a lot of that. And it's all sort of soft wrists under the eyes, and it's kind of acknowledging the ball's going to nibble about. It's quite passive aggressive. But the only thing I can actually remember is him driving the ball through the covers, and it being one of the most beautiful things I've ever seen in any sport. He's just sort of reached a level now where I'd put it like with the sort of Gower 85 Ashes series, where he's just sort of playing this game in his own little square of light. And I don't know if that's got anything to do with Basil. I think it's probably just a stroke of fortune. He's given up the captaincy. And I have seen there's been a lot of Joe Root revisionists. There's been quite a lot of Joe Root prepared the ground here. And if it hadn't been for Joe Root sort of bravely and selflessly hanging in there while England lost all those games, preparing the ground for Stokes, while all his friends in the media were saying there's no way anyone could ever, these are deep structural things, nobody could ever rescue this. But just the purity of his batting has just been astonishing. And if that's kind of baseball, I suppose it is. I mean, it's the effect of feeling that pressure leave your shoulders, which I guess is what it's all about. That's been the nicest bit. I'm watching actually the appreciation he's had from the opposition. Obviously, New Zealand do that all the time because they're these sort of pathologically nice people. But India too. I think it's just been remarkable Test batting. And it's been the thing that's really told me that this sport still works, because the entertainment is just astonishing.
The ultimate expression of the footballing mind, Barney, seems to be a mad professorial type, string and paper all over his walls and dimly lit rooms, and really immersed in the game to be possessed by it and every little facet and inch of it. But the new trend in cricket is to kind of, in long form cricket, is that wisdom is like to reduce it to childlike fun, to somehow care more by feeling less pained by it, and aphorisms like fail your way. And like, do you think these styles are just fads? Like, how do you feel about enlightened, happy cricketers and the whole bloke revolution of England? Like, I know Hugo said this before, but do you trust that? Do you think that is the best way to play cricket because of how brutal it is as compared to football, for example?
Well, it's one of those things where I always feel in sport, and I've kind of studied these team sports, for decades, trying to work out what's happening and how a thing that's really new can suddenly seem really old. I strongly believe that any plan is a good plan. It doesn't matter what the plan is. So long as everyone agrees that's a good plan, then it's a plan and it will work. So if Steve Waugh says you have to die, and we have to talk about Gallipoli, so long as everyone says we really agree that that's the right plan, then that plan will win, because no one else really has a plan. But then if you say, no, that's not the plan, we're just going to feel good, and we're going to just not, it's just not, we're all going to be really relaxed. Then as long as everyone agrees, then that's also a plan. But it has to be really brutally enforced. Like the English fun, the idea of having fun is, I've noticed already there's a massive pressure to be that guy, to be fun, and to be not. There's a lot of peer pressure to entirely be yourself. And there's already been some sort of chat about the players aggressively enjoying themselves in the warm up. And it kind of, I don't really believe that you really can do whatever. What if you actually think that you should be worrying about Gallipoli and sitting there, if you wanted to do that, you wouldn't be. If that's you, that's not allowed. You can't. It sort of reminds me of the story about when Jofra Archer first started playing with England. He made the mistake of eating a Twix, or I think it was a Snickers, and he was immediately rounded on. Like, particularly, I think Ben Stokes was particularly angry and told to eat energy gels instead, because that's professional. And it was like, you're going to be one of us. We're going to make you one of us. And you're going to eat the energy gels. And I feel like the fun, the being relaxed, the having a laugh, the not being too worried about it. If you want Mark Ramprakash to come in and throw 10 billion balls at you because that makes you feel good, and that's your way of being relaxed, I don't think that's going to work. That won't be allowed because that's not the right you. So we will face that crisis at some point, probably when things start going wrong, which is when these things tend to fall apart. But for now, we have a plan, and that is pretty much all that matters. Have a plan.
To paraphrase, I'm 99% sure a tweet of yours, Barney. Is this not a great victory for the structure set up in county cricket?
Yeah, that was quite funny. I mean, I remember, I don't know if Joe Root was kind of taken out of context there, but he did say, anyone who's got in this team has done so in spite of county cricket, not because of it, which it just now looks kind of odd in that you've got Matthew Potts, who's come directly out of county cricket and seems to have like a really elite mentality. I mean, he's not particularly, he doesn't have extreme pace, doesn't move the ball particularly, but he's really athletic, really fit, really up for it. He's kind of that guy who wants to sort of get in your face and win. And he was the leading wicket taker in county cricket, bowling at 82 miles an hour. They have changed pitches a bit this year. There's a lot of runs being scored, so I guess you could kind of try to flip it around and say, well, they listen to us and now county cricket. But the funny thing about Joe Root is he's played more county cricket in the last 2 years than he has white ball cricket for England. He's actually played a lot of county cricket, and his success is in part because he's basically given up white ball cricket and just played red ball cricket, including a lot for Yorkshire. So it was kind of odd to hear him saying that. I think it's the thing they've just been saying to themselves in the dressing room a lot. And I think it was kind of based around the fact that there are a lot of guys coming in who didn't have six packs and immediately got injured and were eating kebabs late at night and that kind of thing. There are people going around county cricket who basically could easily be in the Kent Premier League, drinking 15 pints after a game on a terrible pitch. There is a bit of that, and I think that was kind of appalling to these kids who've been raised in the system. But no, it's actually really kind of quite a tribute to county cricket that people can come in and play like that. Alex Lees, talented sort of journeyman style cricketer who's a little bit overweight, but he's kind of come in and been told to free himself up a bit, and he scored a couple of 50s.
So it all seems to have happened in the broader context of a conversation about perhaps the dwindling primacy of international cricket following the 6.2 billion IPL media rights deal, and that's a deal that kind of feels like Test cricket and international cricket can pick up some scraps around it down the track. And, the anachronistic white clothes domestic pyramid supporting strongholds like Australia and England are now dead. Everyone must now be 6'2" with pipes and levers. There's no competing with Jay Shah and Data Ganguly and Reliance Industries. Do you see any alternatives to Indian financial hegemony, and would England and Australia's heads be turned if the Saudis came in, for example, on a platform of reinvigorating the Sheffield Shield and two-tiered county cricket?
But no, you're right. Well, yes is the obvious answer to that. But you're right. That deal is an astonishing thing because it's not just cricket that deal is going to affect. Because I write across all sports. So that deal is going to affect everything. It's having an effect. It's bigger than the English Football Premier League now, the IPL. It's going to affect how the Championship works. It's going to affect how everything works. It's unbelievable. We make a mistake of believing that anyone who actually administrates sport has any interest at all in balancing competitions, in nourishing how talent comes through in history. They don't. It's entirely about the bottom line. And that's the only argument that ever wins. And that deal is such a vast piece of gravity. It's such a vast sort of gravitational force that it's going to affect everything. And there's no way cricket can resist that. Absolutely not. And I think we're only going to start to see the effects of it now. We've got a month-long 100 season coming up here, which I'm sure everyone in Australia is excited about too, because it's such a great format, and you're probably looking to buy it in now that the Big Bash has fallen apart and is apparently now bad. But a month, basically the meat of the summer is devoted to that, and the IPL deal is kind of weirdly an argument that this whole ludicrous new format desperate as it is and doomed to fail, was probably a good idea, just because it blows everything else away. And we haven't seen the effects of it. You cannot argue with that money. County cricketers here, if you play red ball cricket, you get a cricket contract to play. You're on £20,000 a year. You're not going to get much better than that. It's very, very hard to live in a city here, like to have any kind of life on that. And you have devoted your life to something incredibly difficult to get to that level, to the exclusion of your academic qualifications, exclusion of anything else. It's kind of insane to try and play red ball cricket as a young, sort of talented sportsman in this country, particularly because you're likely to have gone to the kind of school where all your mates are going to go off and work in financial services and, get vast bonuses. So I just can't see, it's very hard to see how that sport survives unless we make decisions that kind of distort the market and say we're going to preserve this like it's a museum piece because it's a piece of the culture that we need to preserve and devote resources to. It's really hard to see how in 5 years' time anyone with any talent, like you say, isn't in the gym trying to hit the ball, over mid-wicket for six 24 hours a day, because it would be irrational to try and do anything else.
Thank you very much to Mr. Ronay. Wonderful to talk to Barney. We're very privileged to do so on this here, our 200th episode. Again, means something to Pez and I. That's nice. It's nice for us to, do that. I feel like, back in the day when television was a thing, when people used to go on, they used to watch television. You used to run to the bathroom during the ad breaks and stuff, and a show would be like once a week, and you'd sort of talk about the work the next day. Like if a TV show reached like 100 episodes, it'd be like, 100 episodes, that was a big deal. But now, like basically, if you've got a laptop and a phone, you just have a conversation with your mate, and it's like, oh yeah, we did 1,700 episodes of the podcast. Did you?
I think about
I don't give a fuck.
About fucking 85 of our episodes were with that level of technical proficiency.
And the people stuck with us, Pez. They
That's
stuck
right.
with us. Isn't that nice?
Yeah, it is nice. It is nice. Yeah, I don't know.
One group of people that did stick with us, Pez, from nearly the very beginning. Actually, was it from the very beginning? Have Budgie Smuggler been with us from the very start? No, they weren't. They came in year two.
Yeah.
Year two.
We're with Fox Sports for the first year as well.
Of course.
When we used to try and get people to say things that would become headlines on Fox Sports, but we haven't. That hasn't happened for a few years. I don't know why, for some reason. Anyway,
I'm doing my best. I'm doing tweets.
Yeah,
that's
right.
Now.
That's right.
I'm getting full articles.
Yeah.
The fuck is that? That's wild.
Any fucking
but yeah, from the yeah. Now when I wrote that, when I was doing some cardio in my apartment, I thought this will get picked up. This will get picked up. I thought. Pez, this is now year 6 of the podcast. So from years 2 to year 6, Budgie Smuggler have been with us, and they've been in the hearts and the minds of the Australian people. They've explored the terrains of the continent. They're in France. They're in the UK. I want to see people on a European holiday right now. You know what? I'm sending the call out, Pez.
Love it.
I'm sending the call out. If you're on a European holiday right now, and I know you've packed some budgies. I don't care if you're Australian. I don't care if you're English. I don't care if you're Dutch. And if you are, you're probably still looking for some of those balls that Josh Butler hit, because he fucking smoked them over there in Amsterdam. But if you're on a holiday, if you're on a European jaunt right now, send us a photo. Get in the DMs. I want to see you. Maybe do some cricket shit in bars. Maybe you're on the beach. Maybe you're on the Arc de Triomphe. I don't care where you are, but you're in Europe, you're on the continent, and you're in budgies. Yep. I want to see that photo. DM me. DM TGC, DM Pez.
Yep.
Do whatever you want. Just I want to see some imagery. Tag us in, and we might repost if it's any good. So there's a little call to action.
If you,
what are we talking about this week, Pez?
Well, I'll just extend it. You say they're big in France, they're big in England, they're big in Australia. I've got no doubt that somebody was in. Is he the outgoing Sri Lankan president's pool in budgies too? And if you were, were there, and if you have any photos of it, you don't have to put your face in obviously for security reasons. Please let us know that as well. Right, that would be good. The people's revolution was happening there. But on the flip side, he goes, and you are right. There's lots of people who seem to be in Europe at the moment. I don't know about you. Instagram's getting flooded with coats in Europe looking good, and I I'm happy for them and jealous and all that kind of stuff. I've had my time. Don't worry, I've done plenty of Ks in my time. But you know,
Don't worry about that, boys. I've done that. I've done what you've done. Don't worry about that. I'm not jealous.
If you come back here, though, you know, I've been encouraged as I'm about to move back to Melbourne in a couple of weeks' time to pack my ski parkas, etc. But if you need your warm clothes, mate, Budgie's got you covered there as well. I think I showed a hoodie a couple of weeks ago. Have a go if you're watching on YouTube. Have a go at these trackies. Mate, that is some and it's got a little budgie insignia there as well. Mate, this is some seriously thick cotton. I cannot wait to deck myself out in this clobber when I get back to the fucking Arctic winds of
deck
Melbourne.
the halls, mate.
Yeah, absolutely. Deck the halls. Wide
and the halls are your legs in this example.
Yeah, I can only wear them after my children are asleep and their washing's done and stuff like that. Because if I wear them while my children are having dinner, etc., there goes the whiteness. Anyway, let's fucking face it. I'm going to spill something on it anyway. But mate, it's quality clobber from a winter perspective. I've decked my microphone here with some very island thing. This actually is sort of thing I'd wear in Sri Lanka as well, and a fluoro little drawstring as well. Number. It's
a little fluoro drawstring number. Yeah,
it's a nice smuggler. And also, sorry, just here because this is actually just a repository, not a sub-repository, repository of budgie kit. There's your socks, if you will. Look at that, Australian made and owned. I'm going to get
someone for the office.
I'm going to get under my desk here if I had $1, and I'm going to show you.
This would be a sensational audio listen at the moment.
Yeah, that's right. And here are some undies as well, some jocks, if you will. I'm going to open these bad boys up, some ASMR stuff. Yeah, baby. Yep. Look at that. This
is now a YouTube unboxing channel.
Yeah, unboxing channel. There's your budget. So they are across all manner of apparel.
It's an apparel range now.
It's the 200th episode. They've supported us for the large majority of it. I know I've said it before, but I will say earnestly, Budgie Smuggler came in to support us at a time that was extremely beneficial a few years ago, just as COVID was hitting, and it actually permitted us to do way more work than we were able to do before because of their faith in us. So it is our pleasure every week to talk about how good their shit is, and it's also a pleasure genuinely to watch how much their business is succeeding. People love their shit all across the world. It's not just swimwear, but if you are a swimwear brand, watch out. And it's broader apparel, and if you are another apparel brand, watch the fuck out. BudgieSmuggler.com.
Indeed. Use the code TGC. Pez, before we get into hashtag ASKTGC, we're doing TGC. It's the code for Budgie is champ. What am I talking about? Code for Budgie is champ. I'm just reading other notes here. And now I'm also talking about Manscaped, where you use the code TGC for 20% off and free shipping. Another company that just fits right in the wheelhouse of TGC. I'm not sure if there's any stories this week, Pez. I mean, you're obviously coming back to Melbourne, so I don't know if that requires necessarily some trimming of your pubic hair for travel purposes, but that's something that I would like you to do before you return to me into my arms.
Okay, that's an instruction to Manscaped. I'm getting a lot of Manscaped ads lately. A lot of Manscaped ads of like quite attractive women essentially encouraging me to shave my balls. And they needn't do that because they didn't need to put those ads out there because we're putting them out there. Just two white blokes, one of them wearing glasses and stuff, just telling guys you can shave your balls, it doesn't hurt your balls, all the stuff there and thereabouts. Once again, I don't really know what else to say on that.
Well, I think the targeting stuff is very, it's North American at the moment. So like those ads are being produced in North America, and obviously it's a hot girl summer.
Of course.
And so I think that's the increase of the influx of ads on your own Instagram feed, despite you being in the tropics and me being closer to the Arctic. So I think that's the increase of that. But I'm sure if we're experiencing that, then we're definitely. Do you reckon as well though we're getting more because we like our phones listening non-stop, and we literally every week talk for we say the word Manscaped for about 4 to 5 minutes every single week. So I think that.
And I've also been looking up landscaping, and I think it mightn't be hearing me correctly as well. So I just keep getting Manscaped ads. Yeah, so just if you I really feel for people who work in landscaping as well. Just typing that in and stuff. They just must be getting so many Manscaped ads.
I had a conversation for about 45 minutes with a guy about man-cads the other day, so that's also potentially getting those so inflated.
That's right. Yeah,
and then all of a sudden.
Yeah, and the Dr. Seuss movie with Mark Myers where he's a man dressed as a cat as well. So in getting those movie recommendations.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Man,
Adopt
cat
a
in the hat. Yeah.
That's right.
Anyway, Manscaped, we've spoken about it many times in the past. This won't be your first jaunt into TGC's ears if you're into your ears, listen to TGC about, grooming products for the male body. Maybe if you're a female listener and you think about the perfect present, I think that's a great gift. I think it's a great gift. It comes as a nice package. It's a great unboxing experience. There's something in there for everyone. Use the code TGC and you get 20% off, and then they support us and then we support you so we can put out more stuff. It's symbiotic. It's perfect. Hashtag AskTGC. This week, we're speaking about European jaunts, and Ross wrote in. He said, "Ragazzi, that's Italian for boys, so straying slightly away from the proverbial off stump that is your regular boys."
Nice.
So I hope I haven't butchered that.
Ragazzi.
I have a scenario followed by a question, says Ross. Me and two friends, fucking hell, have gotten into this very strange routine of practicing bowling to one another and getting out whilst on a night out. E.g., most recently, while in a nightclub in Amsterdam, my friend James bowls that Mitchell Johnson ball, the one that got Bairstow and subsequently Stokes and generated cricket boners deluxe the world over, and I gloved it to a friend standing behind. He was flanked by another friend of mine in first slip. Do you remember that dismissal? Do you remember that ball? I don't remember that ball of Mitchell Johnson's. I mean, that ball from Mitchell Johnson, either and the one that gets Anderson or the one that gets Root. Cook in Adelaide.
But wasn't that Harris? Or was that it?
No. That was in the second innings.
Oh,
so in
right.
the first innings, Johnson he bowls Cook, and then the Anderson one where he stares at him.
I'm not giving it
those
that. Look at the way we're at sixes and sevens.
Well,
I'm not giving it that ball status. I mean, I'll give it that
ball.
series status.
Yeah, okay. Anyway, Ross continues. Naturally, he snaffled it, and we all went wild, including me, who had technically just been dismissed. So he's nicked off and he's celebrated. Okay. This raised a question from a female bystander, which essentially boiled down to, what the fuck was that? As you'd imagine, this not only didn't help with the ladies, it reduced the chop chances to 0. Yet, despite numerous setbacks, we keep doing it as it raises somewhat of a smile and does give us something a little bit niche in this influencer-driven world that demands real bait action. We also went to a gay club recently with some friends and noticed that the young men in the club were also equally unimpressed. So there seems to be a strong correlation between cricket-related simulations and chop strike rates of -1 billion. My question is the following. What is the best cricket-based drill/action in order to attract someone you're interested in romantically? Would it be the no run as a great potential partner is attempting to walk past you in a club, or as she brushes past you, you give them the Joe Root eyes and sheepish smile you'd make if you just missed a Jaffa outside off stump? Or perhaps raising the bat after downing a shot. I can't see any scenario where a man cat would be appropriate, but I'm throwing it in case Pezrat or Hig can. Just to finish with a moment of absolute beta sincerity, TGC is the genuine highlight of my week. Always raises a smile. My life would be a much more boring place without it. Cheers, Ross. Yet another Amsterdam-based beta pom and loyal patron. Please do not keep anonymous in case I have any friends listening to this. It would be nice to have something in common.
See, it's a great question. I was ready to rinse Ross when it appeared for a while he was earnestly asking, without any irony, which cricket-based simulation was going to help with chops in the club. But he very, very quickly moved to make clear that he was aware that it reduces your chances to a strike rate of -1 billion, which is about in the ballpark I was going to go in as well. I don't even want to deign to pretend that there's like anything you can do to raise your chop stakes, even if it's like clever or creative. Like the no run thing made me think about doing that to a woman, perhaps as she's about to cross the road and get hit by a car, waiting. No. But that's just saving their life. I don't want to speak for women, but my guess is that if you save the woman's life who was about to be hit by a car, she doesn't, it's probably unlikely she wants to fuck you as a result of that. So that's why that doesn't exist. You know, that's cricket related action doesn't help you.
Yeah. I can't imagine a scenario where you're in a bar, someone walks past you and you yell no run, and then she thinks that that's a compliment. Or he.
I would go as far
like
to say that, like,
sledging her.
if you're... we've all been sort of in our late teens, early 20s, and, like, probably done some, like, you know...
Yeah.
Some dumb cringe shit, like cricket, sports stuff. You know, back when I was like 17 or 18, like I liked rugby union, and like they used to sing Waltzing Matilda. And, you know, if you're from that a certain demographic at a certain time, wincingly and cringe-worthily, that was a fun thing to do. And I look back and I wince and I cringe, and it was wrong, and I'm sorry, and it's -1 billion everything. So, like, we've all done dumb shit, but, like, I would go as far to say that, like, if you move to do any cricket action in a nightclub, you are essentially saying, I don't want to have sex. And I know I'm not going to get sex. I've given up on sex. There's nothing you can do that will attract a woman to you, as far as I can gather. He goes?
Yeah, mate. Like, you might as well be on a dance floor in some seedy Portuguese club wearing cricket whites that says Route 66 on the back. Okay? That's what you might as well be doing.
Okay. So then you've actually got police after you, if that's the case.
That's right.
The federal police.
That's right. Well, Pez and I have been discussing how the origin, the idea for the names and numbers on the back of jerseys was actually instigated by the FBI to investigate people buying those jerseys for instances of pedophilia.
It's a pedophile honey trap. As soon as you buy that and they scan that at the counter, the AFP or the federal jurisdiction, whatever country you're in, they're immediately informed. Oh, okay.
An alert goes off, like, it's code red. There's blokes in an underground bunker. It's NATO.
Rebel Sport, Casuarina. Go.
And that's the end of episode 200, I feel like. Pez, what a perfect way to finish. How far we've come. Thank you to everyone that's listened to any one of these last 200 episodes over the course of time. Thank you very much to Barney Ronay for joining us on this here show. Thank you very much for listening. As always, Patreon comes out on Friday. The Hall of Fame, of course, comes out next week as well. But thanks as ever, and we'll see you guys next week. Cheers.